I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
And this is Fish Jelly.
It sure in the hell is.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Well, we're a day late and $1 short because I've been sick.
Uh-huh.
And I spent yesterday afternoon in the urgent care.
Well, yes, you did.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in tip-top shape, but...
After much beckoning, though, I asked you to call on Friday, but, here we are.
Mm-hmm.
And is that all you want to say about that, or?
I don't know what else there would... I mean, what else is there to say?
Something positive, like you're on the mend.
Well, we'll see.
Oh, God.
You know, I'm not afraid of death.
It's just... Never mind.
I was reading about David Geffen's new husband. Do you know who David Geffen is?
Yes.
So he's that gay billionaire who is associated with music, but he's like also a co-founder of DreamWorks.
Mm.
Whatever he's done, he has like over $7 billion to his name. But he's been with, or I guess he's married to or something, this 30-year-old go-go boy from Miami. But I was reading the comments of this post and like people being very judgmental. But I thought, what is this man supposed to do? Like, I don't think it's that crazy that this 80-year-old billionaire is in a relationship with someone much younger, very attractive.
Hey, if Tiger King can do it.
I don't know. I don't think it's that wild, but
No, well, it's something that every straight rich man does. I don't know.
yeah, I mean,
I would be shocked to see the opposite, but it is what it is. I don't know. That's
or him like what is he supposed to do? Find another senior citizen billionaire?
He found some little geisha for capitalism and got her, and there we go.
I just think it's funny, like people can't relate to him,
right?
Because if you were in his position, you'd probably do the same. I mean,
yeah, he's not meeting men on Tinder or, well, maybe Grindr. But
he may have bought that man. I don't know, but
and also it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I just thought it was. I brought it up because I was reading all these comments.
It's like, why are you mad? You want to be with him, but like,
or that, yeah. Like, are you heartbroken that you aren't in a relationship with David Geffen? I don't know.
Let people live their little lives. We have limited days on this earth.
Okay. Then I read McDonald's is upgrading their burgers.
Oh boy.
And
upgrade it to actual meat or what?
Wow, this is buns will be softer, cheese gooier, onion will be added to patties right on the grill, and the Big Mac sauce, there will be more of it. We found that small changes like tweaking our process to get hotter, meltier cheese and adjusting our grill settings for a better sear added up to a big difference in making our burgers more flavorful than ever. And when I read that, I just thought, none of that sounds like I'm getting better quality of food. It just seems like you're adjusting the chemicals and the heat to give me something to fool me into thinking I'm eating something better.
What are the lyrics to that one Sierra song about
her booty's
as
something like
soft as a
McDonald's hamburger bun? I should look that up.
It's the small adjustments, like Sierra says.
Yeah, I'm gonna need more from McDonald's. Like, they need to tell me that they're using like USDA grade A fresh meat that's never frozen, and like the vegetables are fresh. And
but that news alert got to you, didn't it?
Well, because I have a history with McDonald's.
A history.
It was my very first job.
Okay.
I will say, McDonald's are cleaner than your favorite fine dining restaurant. That kitchen isn't as clean as a McDonald's kitchen.
Okay.
Because, well, this is back when I worked there in the 90s. So breakfast and lunch were, like they would stop breakfast at 10:30.
There was distinct difference, yes.
But every day when we did that switch, we basically had to douse the entire kitchen in bleach.
Mm-hmm.
Thoroughly clean everything. All of the ingredients are fresh, quote unquote, in the sense that none of that stuff is sitting in that restaurant for more than a few days, because there's very high turnover.
Oh, yes.
And it's clean. Like, all the implements are being cleaned on a regular basis, like multiple times throughout the day. But you think your favorite, insert any type of restaurant, because I don't want people thinking I'm being racist about anything, but you think like your favorite mom and pop whatever that charges triple, and you think that they're throwing shit away the night, like when the night ends, or that they're bleach dousing the kitchen in bleach every night? No.
I mean, probably not, but
So I will give McDonald's that, but the food is not very nutritious. So I'm not
that's
going
true. It's
so
not good for you.
right, so I'm not going to claim that, you know, it's not real food, but it's certainly not nutritious. And yeah, McDonald's menu is, because they got rid of their salad options, and so really there's no option to make good choices at McDonald's. But my other problem with fast food is it's not cheap anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. No.
So you really could
So
either
you really
go,
should go to Ralph's and get some veggies.
and I know people, there are food deserts where people don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables and produce, or you know, meat and produce. But with those prices, like a McDonald's combo meal is like $11, $12.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
not worth it.
No, I mean, it's cheaper to just go get like a bowl from Chipotle.
I know, but that 60-piece chicken McNuggets or whatever is
Ugh.
tantalizing.
You do like the McNuggets.
That's the only thing I ever get there, which is not often. But I don't know. It must be nostalgia for my taste buds, I guess.
We got a couple of comments.
Nasty ones.
Not nasty, but anytime we review a faith-based movie, we get the same comments like we're anti-Christian. And
Well, I mean,
and I just wanted to say, we don't dislike faith-based movies. It's not my fault that the movies I watched, just we don't like them because they're not well done. Like, and then I think I never respond to these kind of comments, but I did respond to one, and because someone's like, you don't ever like faith-based movies, and I said, I think we both like The Exorcist.
That's true. Friedkin is a master, though.
So it's not that it's because of religion. It's just on a Wing and a Prayer is a poorly done movie.
Oh yes,
and I don't even think it's that heavy-handed with the religious stuff.
In fact, it isn't. But it's certainly not well written, and the people performing it don't seem to have the convictions of the flaccid dialogue either. But it is what it is. It's not good.
I wanted to read a comment someone left.
I don't beat my cat, but I'm about to backhand.
Yeah, she is out of control.
She's been ignored.
Are we going to have to pause? Well, here, you go handle her. I'm going to read this comment. I want to give you my take on the term Black excellence. It's lame when Black people do it, and it's patronizing when non-Blacks do it. All Black excellence says is that excellence is not the norm when it comes to Blacks. The term also gives the impression that Black achievement doesn't compare to non-Black achievements. Michael Jordan is a human being whose game and iconic presence were just excellent, period. I don't know who this person is. I don't know if they're Black or non-Black, as they would say. So I don't know where to start, except that I can respect this person's perspective. I don't agree. I think that anytime a group chooses to highlight their own accomplishments, I don't think it's because they're saying that they don't compare to the norm. I think people are doing that because that group doesn't normally get the recognition they deserve, which is why we have Black History Month, Latin Heritage. Like any disenfranchised group wants to feel highlighted so that they do seem like they are the norm. This person's saying the opposite, which I guess, if this person is part of a disenfranchised group and feels like their achievements are minimized because of that, then I guess I have to respect that. But
sure,
as a Black person, I don't agree. Like Black Girls Rocks, I mean, I think that platform was trying to highlight or give a spotlight to a group that doesn't normally get it. So then by this logic, I feel like, I don't know. I just don't agree with that, I guess.
Well, because you pick apart anything, that's like the same. That's not so far off from saying, all lives matter whenever somebody says Black lives in response to Black Lives Matter. And, I'm as a white person that does like to champion non-white things. Like I'm well aware of the feedback that I get that a lot of people don't like certain things or certain language. And it's like, some of that, of course, has to be taken into consideration when we're talking about appropriation or maybe just as simple as overstepping bounds or But I don't know. I don't agree with that comment either. And yeah, I don't know.
But then I don't know. Michael Jordan himself might agree with this statement. Look at OJ. OJ did not want to be black. OJ.
I don't know that Michael Jordan
No,
has
I'm not.
expressed the same.
No. But I feel like there are a lot of people, black, gay, Latino, any disenfranchised group would align themselves with this idea that I'm just excellent. I'm not gay excellent. I'm not black excellent. I'm not autistic excellent. I'm just excellent. But
Sure, but if we're talking about this review of Air that I'm sure that comment was on, I didn't go up to Michael Jordan and say that he's black excellence. The movie itself is made by white people, told from a white perspective about inherently a black athlete that everybody was riding the coattails of his talent. So that's a little that the context matters and intention matters, but
yeah. But again, if this person's black and they don't like the term black excellence, then I can respect that.
Of course I can respect that too, but the other thing is it's part of the cultural lexicon right now, and until that falls out, it's kind of like how I don't necessarily like the term woke, but I feel like that's starting to kind of flow out of popular lingo, I guess. But do you know what I mean? Like it'll drop off, it'll become something else. But
I feel like a person who would align themselves with this comment would also think that affirmative action wasn't necessary. And I wouldn't agree with that. I would say that there are some times when we need to level the playing field because people have been held back. And the only way to make it fair is to offer or to implement these sorts of guidelines. And it's not because, oh, you're lesser than, so we're giving you a boost. It's like, no, people are overlooked. We don't know what people can do if they're given the opportunity. They're just not given the opportunity.
The intention is to say, I see you. Like, I see you for what you are, what you're achieving. That's.
Well, I'm not saying, I'm saying that the group itself can say, like, because these terms are these different, like when we think about Pride Month or any group, it's the group themselves who are pushing for this and supporting this. So I'm not saying like non-black people should be coming up with terms like black excellence. This is a term that black people have adopted. And but again, if a black person doesn't like that term, then I respect that.
Of course. But again,
you
have to, what you have to get down to is you might not like the term, and I'm just saying broadly, anybody, not to this person that even wrote that comment, but you have to think about what's the intention behind it. I don't know.
Well, but sometimes intentions end up being bad, right? Like, I mean, it's not just that.
Of course, but
I didn't mean anything by it.
No, of course, you have to think of context. You have to think of intention, and I don't like. It all goes down to who you want to clap back at and why.
Okay. Films released we didn't cover. Suzume. Okay.
It's a Japanese animated film directed by Makoto Shinkai, whose previous film Your Name, I believe, was quite popular. This made just a mind-boggling amount of money, I guess, in its native country. But it competed in Berlin, where I saw it in February, and it opened this week. And I did not even bring it up to you, I believe.
Sweetwater,
because I didn't really love it. But Sweetwater, directed by Martin Guigui. It's about Nat Sweetwater Clifton, who I believe was the first black athlete to sign a contract with the NBA.
Blind Willow, Sleeping Woman.
It's another animated film I'm not familiar with. The director, Pierre Folds, but Haruki Murakami was listed as one of the writers, which of course would be interesting to me. But yeah.
Hilma.
This is a biopic about Hilma af Klint, the, of course, incredibly notable artist who she died during World, but she was kind of discovered posthumously. But Lasse Hallström, who Lasse Hallström has not directed a movie I've liked in a long time, but I do like his wife, Lena Olin, who's starring as Hilma. Um, but yeah, that came out.
Once Upon a Time in Ukraine.
I have a screener for this I'm supposed to review. It sounds like it's trying very much, as the title would indicate, to be a genre film like Leone, Once Upon a Time in the West, Once Upon a Time in America, or Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, directed by Roman Perfilev. It's actually a 2020 title that is just making its way to our shores.
Personality Crisis, One Night Only.
I actually watched this on Thursday. It's co-directed by Martin Scorsese and David Tedeschi. I think it premiered at the New York Film Festival in 2022. But it's about David Johansen and his a set he did in January of 2020 in New York. Debbie Harry was in the crowd, a couple other very notable people, and it's a documentary, and it's footage of that night performance before the world changed, and interspersed with clips of David when he was with the New York Dolls from the early 1970s. And Morrissey is interviewed in there. But I know David Johansen under another name he used to perform under, Buster Poindexter. Do you remember Buster?
No.
Oh, well, he performed with Sigourney Weaver on 1986 SNL. They sang, what's the song everybody has canceled now? It's cold out, baby. It's cold outside. He also, and he referenced this in the documentary. It says the bane of his existence is that song "Hot, Hot, Hot." I know I played the music video for you for that.
Oh, yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, because it's used in the Six Flags commercial.
Rare Objects.
Katie Holmes' third film. I loathed her last one, so I did not make time in my schedule to watch Rare Objects.
Sakra,
co-directed by Cam Kawai and Donnie Yen, who you just saw as the blind assassin in John Wick Chapter 4. They directed this film, and that's all I know about it.
Lastly, Wildlife.
It's a documentary directed by Jimmy Chin and Elizabeth Chai Vasarhelyi. It's a sweeping portrait of conservationists Chris and Doug Tompkins, chronicling their fight to preserve one of the last truly wild places on Earth.
Movies we watch for fun. The Oak.
The Oak. It's predates the Romanian New Wave, 1994, directed by Lucian Pintillier, and starring Maya Morgenstern. It's about Romania right before the fall of Ceausescu, and following this woman who, it starts out kind of like a terrible kind of Kafkaesque nightmare, and then kind of ends a little bit more hopefully, but she gets horribly raped along the way. It was a very interesting film. I watched it because it has been restored, and I believe is opening later this month in New York at Film Forum.
Magnum Force.
Clint Eastwood, his Dirty Harry persona revisited, which is interesting, the vigilantism of this era, because this is a follow-up to Dirty Harry. This one's directed by Ted Post, who we just rewatched The Baby, directed by Mr. Ted Post. That came out the same year as this, which is crazy. But Dirty Harry is the plot is he's got to find this group. It ends up being a group of sharpshooters, these new police recruits that have taken upon themselves to clean the city of criminals.
Oh, is this the one with the car chase?
Yeah. That had a pretty good car chase. Yeah. It was interesting to watch. Oh, and Hal Holbrook as the lieutenant that doesn't really like him.
Warm Water Under a Red Bridge.
This has also been restored. I think Film Movement will be releasing it, or they might have already. It's the last film from the great Japanese director Shohei Imamura, who won the Palme d'Or at Cannes twice for his remake of The Ballad of Narayama and The Eel. I still have never seen The Eel. I should bust my copy out of that and finally watch it. But he'd been around since the late 50s, early 60s. Great films like The Pornographers. A Man Vanishes is a really interesting documentary. Warm Water Under a Red Bridge is very bizarre. It competed at Cannes. It's about this failed businessman who ends up in this kind of remote seaside town, which has a kind of a close-knit community. And he meets this woman who's basically kind of like a siren, who he's very attracted to. And when they have sex, she and all the villagers know it. She gushes water, like gallons and gallons of water.
Oh,
when
she's a squirter like Chris
she
Jenner.
she is a squirter, and the levels in the river rise under this red bridge, and it would make a really interesting double feature with Woman in the Dunes.
Burroughs the movie.
So, in anticipation of the secret film I selected this week, I watched Howard Bruckner's 1983 documentary about William S. Burroughs, which is called Burroughs the Movie, which I don't forever not seen. I'm familiar with Bruckner also because his nephew directed a documentary about him. The name I'm forgetting because Howard Bruckner died of AIDS. And he'd finished one other film after this called Bloodhound of Broadway, which I've never seen, which I've always wanted to watch. It's based on short stories by Damon Runyon and has a fantastic cast that includes Madonna. And he
Oh,
was only 34. Um, he died before the film was released, so somebody else edited it and kind of butchered it. So I don't think it's a well-regarded film, but I still would love to see that. Anyhow, he had all this access to William S. Burroughs in 1981, 82, and it's a really fascinating portrait of this very private man who had a lot of issues.
have you heard of a movie called Summoning Sylvia?
Yes, I asked you if you wanted to review it, and you just sent me some kind of emoji.
Oh, The King of Comedy.
Why did you bring that up all of a sudden?
Someone asked if we were going to review.
With Michael Urie, right?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah. You didn't respond well, so we didn't. The King of Comedy, which I've also been wanting to watch forever, Martin Scorsese's 1982 film, of which Todd Phillips' The Joker owes a lot, of course, starring Robert De Niro and Jerry Lewis and Sandra Bernhard in her debut. It's funny watch when we watched this either. I think I watched this the same day of Sick of Myself, and there were a lot of similarities with these people that are just desperate to be famous and known. It's a dark movie, but I feel like King of Comedy could have been darker uh, more funny. But Sandra Bernhard is very entertaining.
The Yards.
The Yards was a rewatch I pulled out the other night. I haven't seen it since probably 2001. It's James Gray's sophomore film. Love James Gray. I remember this had a fantastic cast, but as a kid, I was obsessed with it because he had Ellen Burstyn and Faye Dunaway playing sisters. Uh, I I think it's it's dry in a way, but I also really liked it because I just started reading Killers of the Flower Moon, and I noticed some similarities with kind of this thing about contracts and leasing and these horrible things that go on behind the scenes of what on paper would sound really boring. You watched it with me.
Yeah, it was sufficient. I thought Mark Wahlberg was so boring. He has the same affect the entire film. He looks like a moody 11-year-old boy,
He
which
does look
doesn't help because of his haircut.
he does look like a little kid. I had the same problem a little bit with We Own the Night, the next film with James Gray, which has Phoenix and Mark Wahlberg. But I think Joaquin's really good. He kind of
I
looks
think Joaquin would have made a better lead. Like he should have been the Mark Wahlberg character.
and it's like they tried to make Charlize Theron look goth a little, or
I think they're trying to make her look like
Jersey.
early 2000s East Coast, but it just doesn't. I don't know. She was fine.
She's
I guess.
fine.
I hate how she looks, but she's fine.
She looked like she could be Joaquin's sister though in that.
Wow, there's a little bit of incest going on because Mark Wahlberg and Charlize's characters are cousins, and they're also in love.
Yeah.
And they were caught by Charlize's mom, played by Faye Dunaway,
Mm-hmm.
having sex.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the story is a little all over the place because that feels like that could have been its own movie. Like these two cousins who are caught, like they're kissing cousins who can't. But that is such a poorly developed plot point in this movie. And then Mark Wahlberg's character is so flat that it's like I didn't care if he goes back to jail. I didn't care if
Yeah, that's the thing. Again, like with We Own the Night, he's kind of boring. But that's one of the films that Harvey Weinstein butchered up too.
Wow. Savage Sisters.
I think that in my mind, this was supposed to be. I've seen Switchblade Sisters, which Tarantino.
Well, you
loves.
said to me that this one is like.
I think that
How did you describe it to me?
I don't remember.
You made it seem like, oh, it's crazy. People say it's crazy.
I thought I think I was thinking Switchblade Sisters, which I also own and I've seen, but Savage Sisters I'd never seen. And I think Kino Lorber released it a couple months ago, which is why I have it now. But
Well, the problem is based on the poster art, you would think it's one of those like 70s, like exploitative, like jugs and guns,
yeah,
and
yeah,
but it's not. The three main female actors, while they're beautiful, they do a pretty good job acting.
and they're taking themselves seriously,
Yeah, so it's not really fun because the movie itself is, I mean, and the production value is not the worst, so it's like kind of a decent movie,
but boring.
but boring.
But so it was directed by Eddie Romero, and I read somebody else's comment that it's only a hair's breadth more competently made than his previous film Black Mama White Mama.
Oh,
But and that's true. But he's Filipino, shot in the Philippines. It looks, I think, really good for that reason.
yeah.
But Gloria Hendry is the star. Well, arguably the star. She was kind of competition for Ms. Pam Grier because she was in Black Caesar and Hell Over Harlem, both Fred Williamson films. She is introduced to us as this kind of dominatrix torturer, and it's giving me like Diane Thorne and Ilsa She-Wolf. What's that name of that movie again? Ilsa, the She-Wolf of the SS.
Oh, sure.
And there's a sequel to that too, but then not for too long because that switches up. But she looks great. Really doesn't have anything fun to do though. Oh, and Sid Haig is in it, and he's supposed to be Mexican, I think.
He's fun to watch.
He's fun to watch,
but I was confused because he didn't really seem like he was any sort of nationality. He seemed more like a monster to me.
He does. He often kind of seemed like a monster. But we just saw him because we rewatched Foxy Brown. But his accent work is pretty bad.
Well, while I was convalescing, still am, but we put on No One Heard the Scream.
Yes.
Which you had handed me like a stack of movies, and this is the one I chose. I think I chose it because the description was like a controversial film with an ending you won't believe. Or it's like Spanish giallo. So I thought, oh yes, let's try. What did you think about it?
I was highly entertained, more than the packaging that made me lead me to believe I would be.
I actually think the worst part of the movie is the ending, but building up to it, I was very engaged. I think the lead female actor is stunning and compelling.
Carmen Sevilla.
And the lead male actor was sufficiently creepy.
Yes, and he's in this was directed by Eloy de la Iglesia, and who put this out? Severin Films. I have a bunch of his movies that I've never seen.
Well, based on this one, I would watch another one because I thought it's about a high class prostitute who lives in this luxury building
that's under construction.
It's under construction, so the only people who are there are like, it's just offices and empty apartments, but it's like the weekend and it's just her neighbor, and like the hearing impaired concierge.
Yeah.
And she witnesses her neighbor kill who she thinks is his wife. And then he's like, you need to help me take care of this body. And they go on this like pretty interesting journey to like dispose of the body. But should I ruin the gag?
Go ahead.
The gag is that was not his wife who he killed. His wife caught him in bed with another woman, and she killed that lady. So the wife made the husband dispose of the body. And then now that the husband and his neighbor, who at first he had kidnapped to help her, they developed like a romance over the course of several days. So now they're in love, or so she thinks. So they're in bed together. And then she wakes up in the morning and her neighbor, lover, killer man is dead in the bed.
Bludgeoned.
And guess who killed his ass? His wife. And then the end is she wants old girl prostitute to dispose of his body. And she's like, well, you should be good at this by now.
Yeah. I was
very entertained. I would highly recommend it. We need to take a quick break though. So after we finished No One Heard the Scream, was it me who put on Your Highness?
No, we watched that before.
Oh, that was the starter movie.
You put it on because I said I'd never seen it.
Well, and then it said it was the unrated 4K version. Like things we could never show in the theater. So we put this shit on. Year is it?
2011.
Directed by
David Gordon Green.
who I know from,
well, Pineapple Express and the Halloween films.
And it stars James Franco, I want to say Martina McBride.
Danny McBride.
His mom, Danny McBride, Natalie Portman's in the shit. Justin Theroux is in it.
Zoe Deschanel.
That makes me think of the SNL skit with RuPaul.
Hobo Chic or whatever.
Yeah. But anyway, this movie did not feel uncut, unrated. Like
this, David Gordon Green, I don't know what happened, but because the early part of his career was a fantastic indie film director with films like George Washington, All the Real Girls, which I believe Zoe is in. And then he got tied up in this James Franco, Danny McBride crew because Pineapple Express came first. Then they did this, and then The Sitter.
Listen, for it to be like this gang of people, and I can't really think, like, I don't remember. The only thing I remember from Pineapple Express is the one black lady cop saying, I think I know that bitch.
She's like, I think I know who that bitch is.
Yeah, that's the only part I remember from that. And then
Rosie Perez.
I don't remember her in it. Isn't there a movie where Rihanna's in it and it's like the end of the world?
This is the end, I think.
I don't remember.
The one where Channing Tatum is in he's like a sex slave.
That sounds about right.
Again, one of those films where it's like, these people just smoke a bunch of weed and think they're funny.
Your Highness is the epitome of a bunch of dudes sitting around high thinking something's funny, because this movie, the only good thing about it is it does have production value. Like, a lot of effort went into making it. So all the crew, tech, all that editing and special effects, they did a good job. But very little about this movie made me laugh. No. And I mean, probably the best part of the movie, I mean, Justin Theroux had some pretty funny lines.
Justin Theroux, like, if we're talking about the human cast members, yeah. But the best scene is with that wise wizard creature that,
like, a Yoda looking thing who's a pedophile and a creep.
Turns out was molesting
James Franco. I think James Franco's cute in the movie. I think he definitely is better than Danny McBride.
I don't know why we thought that he should be the lead in this,
and his character's so confusing because he's supposed to be this pitiful guy, but then he has more mojo than his brother James Franco. That didn't make any sense.
Nope. And then, like, Natalie Portman, it's like you didn't want to let her be funny at all, I guess, because
Well, I think the joke is supposed to be that she's like this real actor in this stupid movie, but the problem is she's like acting in the stupid movie.
Yes,
it's not funny.
It's not funny. Even the accent she's doing is not funny.
It's not garbage. I think I gave it 2 out of 5 on Letterboxd. It's not the worst movie. It's just like, the other part is, what was what's the uncut part of this movie? The only part I could maybe see not being part of the R rating version
is the Minotaur.
There's a Minotaur who is like raping one of the guys.
Not even, though.
He's not even. It's not that gruesome. And then we see this Minotaur's erect penis, which is big. And then Natalie Portman lulls it into being flaccid. And then Danny McBride cuts his penis off to make a necklace. So we see the penis necklace. But other than that, I don't know what about this screenplay so edgy or funny.
Nothing is edgy.
It really felt like 13-year-old boys would think it's funny.
Yes, like this is when you get a bunch of straight men together and think this is daring. Like, try me.
Okay, I rewatched Nope, and we reviewed Nope.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure my feelings about it on a rewatch are the same as the review, so you can watch the Nope review. It's a good movie, I guess. Yeah,
that which is what I thought about it too. But again, I'm willing to bet if we saw his director's cut, there are certain things in that film that would pop so much better. I bet.
I think it works better as a creature feature, and then I maintain that I hate the way the alien looks. But
yeah, there's no way around that.
Lastly, you watched Scent of the Green Papaya.
Yes, because now, so we won't talk about Cannes in this episode because we're still waiting for Directors Fortnight to unveil their selections, which I think is tomorrow morning, to talk about what I'm most excited for. But I'm now in Cannes prep mode, so certain filmmakers who I have blind spots for, I'll try to fill up on. But the French Vietnamese filmmaker Tran Anh Hung won the Camera d'Or for his first feature, which played at Cannes, which was Scent of the Green Papaya, which is about a young Vietnamese girl. It's told through her eyes in two separate families in Saigon, and it's beautifully shot. It's kind of a wispy little bit of a narrative, but it's a very sumptuous, lush looking film. And I'm sad to say the only other film I'd seen by him is Norwegian Wood, because those are the two that are easiest to get a hold of. I'm kicking myself. I think in 2016, his film Eternité, which had Bernice Bijot and Melanie Laurent and Audrey Tautou, closed the Cannes Film Fest, and it's never really good. A good sign when something's closing and not in the competition. And that never traveled anywhere after that, so I never got to see it. So I'm excited to see his new movie, which is a period piece, which has Juliette Binoche and Benoit Magimel in it, who used to be a couple and had a kid together. Anyway, so that I watched that the other day and liked it well enough.
Well, there are no entries in the obituary section, so we can move on to the secret film.
Oh, what about Projects of Interest?
Oh, did I skip that?
You did.
Oh, I don't have any. Did you send me some?
Those are the bottom of the email.
Do you know what the first one was?
Yes. The Piano Lesson. Malcolm Washington, one of the sons of Danzel, he is directing The Piano Lesson, which is an adaptation of the August Wilson play, starring his brother, John David Washington, and Sammy Jackson. Danielle Deadwyler and Corey Hawkins are also in the cast, so that is exciting.
And then Billy Porter is going to be James Baldwin.
In my notes, I wrote it. I meant that to be a reference to Faye Dunaway is Joan Crawford. Billy Porter will he be James Baldwin? Which
is that for sure?
It is for sure because I believe he's co-writing it.
Oh, I feel like we could find someone better to be James Baldwin.
I like Billy Porter well enough. You know what? We need to give him the chance to act, I guess. to step outside of himself, I'm hoping. And
I feel like he's had a lot of time to do that.
Yeah, but he's always often utilized in a certain way.
That's true.
So if I have to believe that if he has a hand in kind of co-creating this, that he has that in the back of his mind. I hope that this is James Baldwin. Let's not do him dirty. I don't know.
Well, we'll see. Okay, the secret film this week was your selection.
It certainly was.
You chose the 1991 surrealist science fiction drama film written and directed by David Cronenberg called Naked Lunch. So you'll talk a lot about this, but I know David Cronenberg is known for body horror, and I know I've seen the movie where people are having sex with the cars.
Crash.
Have I seen another Cronenberg movie?
You've seen The Fly.
Oh, The Fly,
You've seen The Brood.
Yes.
I'm sure that didn't you see that probably because I haven't
The
rewatched
Hitman's Bodyguard's Wife or what?
No, History of Violence and Eastern Promises were pretty big.
Oh yes, I've seen those. Those are Cronenberg?
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah,
I saw those at the Lagoon.
Yeah, that was before you knew me.
Yeah.
Actually, I've been wanting to rewatch both of those.
Yeah, who would have taken me to see those kind of movies? I know I didn't take myself, but I know I saw them at that theater. And then
Videodrome.
And then William S. Burroughs, the only reason I know who this is because you told me that when I first met you that your college friends, who are still your friends, but you met them in college, that they were into like the beat writers. And so there's him, there's Kerouac,
Ginsberg.
Yeah. So I know those names. I know that.
Yeah, my friend Sean was actually really into Hunter S. Thompson and Bob Dylan, but yeah, by extension, Kerouac. And
so I knew those names. I knew that there was a queer component to that fantasy but I couldn't have said which one was like gay.
Well, Ginsberg and Kerouac were probably the most famous, and Ginsberg was unabashedly gay. Yeah.
Oh, he was. Okay. So that's about as much as I know about William S. Burroughs and David Cronenberg. So this movie, Naked Lunch, is sort of an amalgamation of a book William S. Burroughs wrote.
A very infamous book because it was part of a censorship lawsuit.
And Cronenberg took that book and sort of infused it with like the history, like the person William S. Burroughs.
Yes.
So, so first I want to say, I think that it's a really brilliant approach to a historical figure to take a piece of their work and combine it with aspects of the life that we know to be true, in comparison to things like Blonde, which I don't think is a horrible movie. I just don't like this idea of like sort of retelling a real person's life. And then, or something like Paint, which isn't even on the same level,
Right.
where it's like this Bob Ross inspired character in this shitty ass comedy. But so I really think that this is such a smart way to approach a historical figure. But first, you read Naked Lunch, the book, and how would you describe that book?
Oh, it is by far probably the most incomprehensible thing I've read. It would be like if you took James Joyce's Ulysses, which is also a difficult read, and then injected that full of fentanyl laced cocaine.
So the film feels incomprehensible at moments, but there is a basic story. And the basic story is it's the 1950s, and there is a character named William Lee, who we can presume is supposed to be William S. Burroughs inspired. And he's working as an exterminator.
Which Burroughs actually did, and he wrote a book called Exterminator.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. So, and we watched the Criterion
release,
which included a sort of featurette about the making of, which I actually found very interesting. But William Lee is an exterminator, and one day he's on the job and he runs out of insecticide. So his boss chews him out, and insecticide is like gold, like, you know.
You can't run out.
You can't run out. You have to do your job, but also like they ration it out. So the fact that he's coming up short is a problem. And he gets home, and you know why he's running short? Because his wife is getting high off the shit.
Oh,
she's injecting it in her titty meat.
She sure is.
So then we find out that,
and you know what? That's one of my favorite. I love Judy Davis, and I know I've say this line all the time. It's a Kafka high.
Yeah, he's asking her like, the fuck is you doing injecting this shit?
She goes, oh, it's very literary.
But even before she says that, he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I didn't expect
you weren't supposed to see that.
You weren't supposed to see this. And he's like, well, now that I have, like, what are you doing? And then she called it a Kafka high. I didn't understand the reference. What is the reference?
Because Kafka's most famous book is Metamorphosis, about a man turning into a bug.
So after you explain that to me, it's very funny. But I also didn't know the William Tell reference, but basically it's like he puts a glass on top of her head and wants to shoot it off. So William puts a glass on top of Joan's head and he's going to shoot it off. But instead he shoots her in the forehead and kills her. So the police bring him in and he's telling them, well, I'm an exterminator. And they're like, yeah, well, if that's insecticide, kill this bug. And then this is when the film goes left and it turns into like this, I don't know, crack addict's dream. But the police bring out a big ass shoebox and they open that lid. And I thought this was a very well done scene. You see this big ass bug crawl out of the box. And if that's not crazy enough, the cops tell him, kill the bug with this insecticide. And that bug sits on top because the insecticide is powder. And this is where shit goes real left. The bug starts talking. And it's not bad enough the bug is talking. The bug is talking out of its back from what looks like a giant butthole.
Oh, it looks like a red anus. Yeah.
And that shit took me out. I mean, the best scenes of the film are when these bugs are talking, because there are multiple bugs that are talking. But anyway.
And it's like, oh, please rub some of that on my lips.
But I got to get through this basic story. So William is in this police interrogation room and he is talking to this bug now. And the bug has convinced him that he's a special agent.
And also says, like, part of being a special agent means you might have to be gay.
Right. Okay. So what I took from this story is that this is about William S. Burroughs and sort of his struggles with drug addiction, but also his sexuality. So this bug convinces William that he's a special agent. We don't know what his mission is, but we know that he has to report on it, which I thought was really funny. And this mission takes him to Interzone, which is somewhere in Africa. Although
It's
I don't know where he is before he goes to Interzone.
They're in New York in
Oh, New York.
1953. It's notable that the wife that he did really kill happened in Mexico. He was only in jail for 13
Oh, yeah, I
days.
didn't mention that. William S. Burroughs, for people who don't know, which I didn't, he actually did accidentally shoot and kill his wife.
And he had a kid with her too. But he only spent 13
It's
years,
not funny.
13 years, 13 days in jail. But
But
Interzone is supposed to be Tangiers, which is where he wrote a lot of the documents that became Naked Lunch.
But so the bulk of the movie is William in Interzone, Africa, trying to report on something. And a lot of the information that he's getting is coming from his typewriter, which is like turning into the bug.
Mm-hmm.
And he meets another couple there, this guy and his wife. And the wife's name is Joan, which is the name of the wife he killed. And this character is played by the same actor,
Judy Davis. Yeah, and she's married to Ian Holm.
so she looks like his dead wife.
Which is funny because they're supposed to be American and neither of those two are.
So we get like him trying to figure out things, but it's very like, I mean, it's nonsensical what he's trying to find out and what he's reporting on. But we also get that the sexuality part of the movie is that William never really says he's gay. He's asked if he's queer, or they use the F slur, which I'll get to, but he never really acknowledges that. But we do acknowledge that in Interzone, there are these very attractive young men who men use for sex.
Mm-hmm.
And William is told, like, are you going to do it? In addition to that, there's a character named, I believe, Cloquet, and he's played by Julian Sands.
Yves Cloquet, yeah.
Who's clearly gay. And
Mr. Sands, of course, has never discovered after that.
Yeah, he may be, he may be dead as far as we know. But anyway, the mission sort of leads him to a relationship with the other Joan. Mm-hmm. And then he's told that he may have an opportunity to work in a different city, I think called Annexia. Mm-hmm. And he decides to take the new Joan with him. And when he gets to the border, like to get into this new town, the police are like, well, what's your business here? And William says, I'm a writer. And they're like, prove it. And he doesn't have his typewriter anymore because it broke. So he shows them a pen. And they're like, nah, that's not good enough. So then all of a sudden, he's going to play this William Tell game with the new Joan in the back of this van they're driving in. And he goes to shoot the glass off of her head, and he shoots her in the forehead and kills her, just like his wife. And the police are like, great, welcome to Annexia.
Yeah.
The end.
Which is a very poetic way, doing several things. I think he's haunted by this thing that happened to him.
Yes.
And also, as a writer, the inevitability that you will always have to kill your darlings.
Yeah. Roy Schneider's in the film. Scheider. Oh.
No N in that name.
I really did write down Schneider. Roy Scheider's in the film, who I know from Jaws.
Oh, yes. And oh, God, French Connection. Many, many, many. You saw him play Fosse in All That Jazz.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm. He's playing a doctor, Dr. Belmont.
Dr. Benway.
Sorry. I don't know where I'm getting Belmont from. But when we meet him first, he's mixing a concoction for William that's supposed to help him. I don't know if it's like methadone for heroin addicts, something like that,
for addiction issues,
like an antidote or something,
because of the bug juice.
But when he's mixing it, I was like, this is not science, sir. This is not precise.
It's like me filling up the laundry, the washer.
Oh God. I didn't want to think about it. I'll get angry. But it did make me think about, I saw on TikTok a recipe on how to make McDonald's pancakes. And all they do is take Bisquick and mix it with Sprite. And that's it.
Sprite?
Yeah. And then you have to make sure there's a lot of butter in the pan. But I want to try that. Because I like McDonald's pancakes.
What are those soda cakes that Halle Berry's making in Kings? 7-Up
But you
cake,
can buy
7-Up cake.
You can buy them. Like if you go to a Kroger or a Publix, they have those like 7-Up cake, or they'll have like the Shasta cake with like the orange flavored. I think that's ghetto. But anyway.
Well, my grandmother, who was 100% Finnish, she would make shit like that too.
Okay. I mean, if I did, I wouldn't tell people it's soda cake. I would be like,
No,
eat my special recipe super moist pound cake.
but
I'm not gonna tell everyone there's 7 Up
a
in it.
generation of people where that was those were things that were incorporated in recipes.
I know, but like I think my family marinates the carne asada in beer
and Pepsi.
or yeah, and I'm like, don't tell people. Just let it be your secret sauce. Like my cooking skills are elevated.
Or that's when people would crush chips on top of casseroles for.
Well, you can't even hide that.
Texture.
You can't even pretend that's something else. But anyway, okay, so I had 2 characters I really liked. The first one was Kiki,
played by Joseph Scorin, who is now dead.
Well, I only know that because I'm like, God, he's so handsome. Like, why didn't he do more movies? And I look up his IMDb and he worked a lot. And then all of a sudden it stopped. And it's because he died. But he died from complications from I'm gonna say it wrong. And I said it wrong in one podcast episode. The secret film was Big 50, the Del Rhonda Hood story. He suffered from sarcoidosis, which is also what Del Rhonda Hood has.
Yeah.
But yeah, that actor died pretty young from complications from that. But I really liked him. But when he first meets William, he asked him, "Are you a faggot?"
Yeah, he does.
and then they're in a gay bar.
They're in a gay bar, and then he's like, "Well, I have a friend that's a little more sexually ambivalent too."
And then it's a mugwump.
A mugwump. These creatures.
Child, that thing.
Which is so great because the mugwumps are these creatures who have these.
They're like udders, like you would milk a cow.
They're udders, but they're very phallic, and then they're
on their head,
and they're on their. Then they ooze apparently drugs, so they have
like an intoxicating fluid.
But that the different levels of intoxications you have. There's one scene where they're tied up and people are there just sucking on them like in an opium.
Well, that's a good segue to my next favorite character, which is Joan and her husband,
Ian Holm.
They have a maid.
Oh yeah, Fidela, played by Monique Mercure,
she had a really good screen presence. But we find out that Fidela, this housekeeper, is really a front for Dr. Benway, Belmont, and that's just like a skin suit. But when that's revealed, I thought it looked really cool. But prior to that, they're in this like mugwump farm where, like you mentioned, people are sucking the fluid out of these udders. That was so gross, but very effective. And then I want to say David Schwimmer, Roy Scheider in the Fidela costume reveals himself, and I thought that looked really good.
Oh yeah, when he rips the shirt open and like tears his breasts apart.
Yes. Then we find out that the market, like in Interzone for drugs, is basically like they're processing like this black centipede meat.
Yep.
Ugh.
You see so much of that.
It's very really well done. It's gross.
There's a sense of I didn't know about this author until years after I read Naked Lunch, but Anna Kavan's Ice it reminded me of that a lot. And you know what? I think subconsciously I chose this film rather than Dead Ringers, right? Because that's got the television series remake about to come out. Also, I love that film, but the original with Jeremy Irons. But I think Beau is Afraid, the new Ari Aster film, put me in mind of, because I haven't seen this since Before I Met You, and it's always been in my mind as a favorite of Cronenberg's. But I think Beau is Afraid, and this kind of journey, this internal journey, is what's really going on.
We're told that the Interzone boys, like, it's made very clear what their function is, and we're told that they're hot and cheap. But something else I really liked about the story is this idea of the typewriters, because Ian Holm also has a typewriter.
He has two.
One is like in Arabic, like only types in Arabic, and then the other one, and they're bugs and they talk. But I just thought that was such an effective way.
Well, because one is his Bill Lee's typewriter at home starts eating the one that Ian Holm insists on take.
Yeah, those are very effective. But I think it's also effective in demonstrating like this, I mean, it's so literal, but it's not like this writer's delusions from being a drug addict. And the only thing that didn't work for me, and it's really just a small thing, but it's the practical effects, because everything else looks fantastic. But then we get to Julian Sands, and we find out that he is not who he says he is. He's actually like a creature. and he wants to devour Kiki. Like he's lusting after Kiki, and he convinces William to bring Kiki over. And then we get the scene where we see Julian Sands' character in his like creature form, and he has like sucked the life out of Kiki.
It looks a little bit like something from The Thing, John Carpenter's.
Yeah, but The Thing also has, I think 90% of the special effects in The Thing are great, but then
Sure,
I think that in this film, that segment was bad enough that I feel like it should be cut because it just looks bad. I mean, when we see it from behind,
I think
maybe you
from
could have
behind it
stopped
looks
there.
fine, yeah.
Yeah, they shouldn't have shown the faces because I think I would have said this had perfect effects.
Sure.
Aside from that,
I didn't mind that as much as you did, but also the sex scene with Judy Davis and Peter Weller.
Oh yes, where
with using the Algerian typewriter.
Yes, and then there's a creature that jumps on top of them and starts humping on them. That looked really cool. And that's when Fidela comes in and like chastises them.
And that creature is the typewriter.
Yes.
And not Algerian Arabic, but yeah.
But what would you give this movie?
Well, I like it a lot more than you do. So I maintain that this is a 4.5 film for me. I love it. I do. I really love it.
I think I would give it 3 out of 5.
Sure.
Because well, the other thing is like I had to like educate. I don't know. Some films.
Yeah, I think that it's a much more enriching thing if you are familiar with Burroughs a little bit at least. I don't think you have to read Naked Lunch at all. You know, the only line I remember, because Naked Lunch
we have 2 minutes left, by the way.
It's just a bunch of images, but something about saying he fucked his grandmother's skull through the eye hole until the brain atrophied. It's like shit like that. That's why in the 50s it went through a censorship lawsuit because.
But I mean, if you're like me and you know like very basic about the director, the subject matter, like the book, the source material, and the subject, I felt like it did feel a little incomprehensible. And then I also feel like William the character is not very dynamic.
Peter Weller.
I kind of am missing the darkness and the sadness because at its core, I guess I kept thinking like, if this is supposed to represent like a man in the 50s who is struggling with his sexuality and also with drug addiction, there's not a lot of sadness in this story.
Sure.
And it left me feeling kind of like, oh, I'm just watching.
But you know,
it feels more visual than anything.
That could be probably, as Cronenberg even said in the extra features, is like as a heterosexual directing this, I think that's maybe a little bit inevitable.
Yes, and I think that I really appreciated him saying that and being aware of it.
Yeah, especially in 1991.
Yes. Like, so I applaud the director and his efforts, but it did leave me wanting.
Sure. I think that if you want to read Burroughs, read Queer as a memoir. Steve Buscemi was trying to make that for years, and I believe Luca Guadagnino now has the rights to make that.
Well, we have like 4 or 5 videos dropping, including Carmen, Beau is Afraid, The Covenant,
Guy Ritchie's The Covenant.
Oh, and a film I really liked with Shailene Woodley.
Oh, To Catch a Killer.
To Catch a Killer.
Yeah, I liked that too. Yeah. And then we have a couple other things we were going to watch.
So for all the people who say we don't ever like anything, I like To Catch a Killer. I like Beau is Afraid.
Yeah, I did too. But we got a couple of things to watch this week, including that will drop this week, including a documentary about Little Richard.
Oh, I'm very excited for that. Do you have that screener?
It's coming.
Oh, it's coming. I would watch that.
We also have Master Gardener.
Oh yeah, I have to watch that.
But that doesn't come out till mid-May. But I have it.
Well, let's hope my health improves. But if I die, you know,
you're not gonna die. It's been not this year.
It's been fun.
You have penance to pay still.
Do you have anything else to say?
I will leave you with this: exterminate all rational thought.
Ta-ta.